you can create that. You don't have to create the other stuff just because it does well. I get really fired up about this.
Yeah, I love this. I'm like, Jera, give it to
Got me
us.
heated over here. Scrolling through your Reels feed and seeing social media advice out there, it makes it feel like it's black and white. It makes it feel like you always have to use a trending audio. A client recently was like, I've been scrolling for an hour looking for a trending audio. I'm like, girlfriend, maybe just don't use an audio. Like, you don't have, like, I think it's actually really refreshing to not use music. Now, that's not to say that there isn't sometimes a strategy around trying to find an audio that might pick up speed, that type of thing. So I'm not saying don't do it, but we don't have to lock ourselves into these rules that are really perpetuated at the moment and make us also like not, feel bad and even prevent us from taking action sometimes because we don't have it right.
Welcome to Side Note, the podcast, where we empower ambitious women with new perspectives. I'm Samantha Fackler, your host. Join me for off-the-cuff conversations with the most authentic people I can find. Entrepreneurs, creatives, authors, visionaries. We welcome you as you are and hope you leave with what you need. This is Side Note, the podcast where big ideas become real. Jera Bean, Jera Foster Fell, welcome to the show. I am so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be here as well.
You are this brilliant gem that I somehow stumbled across a couple months ago, and you are absolutely killing it in terms of short-term video content. So that's Instagram, Reels, TikTok. You've also had a fascinating journey. So please give us an intro for our audience.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So I'm a social media coach, educator, speaker. My mission is to transform the way you show up on social media so you can use it as a powerful and positive tool. And this year, I've also been narrowing in on like, what do I want to do more specifically? So recently this year, I've also dove into this idea of helping people carve out their own path in their industry and really leveraging their personality to create a personal brand that convert. So that's where I am right now. However, looking back on things, it's such a twisty, turny journey of pivots and changes and all the things. So to give an overview of that, if we rewind back to kind of graduating college, I was a graphic designer. That's what I studied in school. I did some freelance work. I worked at an advertising agency. I worked at a couple startups, all the different things. And then in kind of early 2015, I found myself in this interesting and somewhat challenging chapter where I realized I was struggling with social anxiety. I started to see a therapist for that. I didn't really have a lot of strong friendships at the time. I had been at a job that was very, very manipulative, so much so to the point where I actually realized I had a little bald patch. Like I parted my hair one day when I was at a
No.
WeWork. Yeah.
Oh
And I was
my
just like
gosh.
doing my hair in the mirror and I'm like, notice this little bald patch on my head. And I was like, oh,
This is
that's
not
not so
good.
good. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So all these kinds of things colliding, it wasn't the best time. And I had been following a woman named Kayla at Shyness. She is an Australian personal trainer. She was really big at the time. She's still really big. And I'd been following her for a year. I'd seen the community of women doing her program. And so I decided on April 4th, 2015, I remember the day very clearly, to download her workout guide, head to the gym, and just start this journey. I also made an Instagram account to hold myself accountable, which is still the same account I have to this day. So we're coming up on almost 10 years that I've had this account, which like I keep saying I
Whoa,
know it's almost been a decade and it like really freaks me out, but it's also
that's
cool.
huge. Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that was really the start of everything for me. And it's really significant because very quickly I found an outlet of creative expression. I've always been a creative person. I found community because there were other women going through the program. Some of them were going through the program at the same exact time as I was, like the same week. So we would connect on that. And I also was feeling good because I was working out consistently, and that feels good after never having really done that before. So this
Endorphins.
like, yeah, so this like sort of trifecta of different energies all came in at the same time. And that's what started everything. So I became, before the word influencer was even really used, I had no idea that I was going to become that. I kind of grew as that term and as that phrase grew. And I became a fitness influencer. I became an Adidas ambassador at the end of that year. I became a Soul Cycle instructor. And so fitness was this huge force in my life. I ended up leaving fitness mid 2018, pursuing more so lifestyle content creation. And that was kind of a bit of a more lost period because fitness had defined me for so long. Then not having that anymore, I didn't really know who I was, what the content I was creating, and all that. However, that kind of ebb and flow and the ups and the downs, that particular down pushed me to then at the end of 2019 hire a business coach. And that is how I developed my social media coaching and education business, which, it's been 4 years of a lot of stuff, or almost actually 5 years. Whoa. Since that. So there's been a lot that's happened during then. I've developed my speaking career within that. I've had group programs. I just launched my first actual self-paced course. There's been a lot like compacted within those couple of years, but that kind of brings us to present day of what I do now. And that's really the Jera in a nutshell of, gosh, the last 10 years.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that journey. The hair piece really stands out to me because there's nothing like when your physical body tells you, hey, this is wrong and
Oh,
something
yeah.
needs to change. All the way fast forward to today. And actually, one of your courses, I took one of your on-demand courses and I was like, this is a well done course because there
Oh,
are
thank you.
ton of master classes and workshops online, but I feel like you've been doing this for a long time because you have dialed in how to make things engaging, how to ensure that things are actionable and valuable and not just like this master class word salad fluff.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that because I
Yeah.
really like set out with that intention. Like I never want anyone to join something free or paid and be like, what is this? Like I really do put my heart and soul into every aspect of what I do. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and you're really talented at the short form video production. I noticed one in the course that I took, it was all about keeping it really engaging when you're producing video. And, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business coach, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't realize that they still need to do marketing even when they become a business owner. And more than that, they need to show up. They need to become visible. And that is a hard pill to swallow when maybe you've been behind the scenes or you've been in corporate before. So,
Yeah.
could you speak to that like when people feel a little stuck, a little shy, like camera shy?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a lot to say about this, and I will just start with short form video content really is the social media vehicle at this point, and it has been for years, and I think it just gets stronger and stronger as time goes on. On Instagram, we have Reels. On TikTok, of course, we have TikTok, and the power is that in the Reels tab or on the FYP, the For You page on TikTok, we are exposed to people who don't necessarily follow you yet. And that's the power of visibility. And that's why video is so important. We can get our content in front of new people. In addition to that, video also allows us to use our voice, like quite literally use our voice, whether it is talking to camera or whether it is voiceover with B-roll. And I think if you are wanting to stand out, connect with people, be an authority, really build credibility in your space, your voice is such a key tool to make that happen. So I'm making my case for video here and why it's so important, but I also understand how this isn't an inherent skill that we are born with. And I think that a lot of people feel badly about themselves because it almost feels like it should be. It's like I open up the camera and I feel awkward. Therefore, something is wrong with me. I edited a video and it's not very good. Instantly, that means I suck at this. And it's simply not the case. Just like
Yeah.
anything else, social media, making content, feeling comfortable on the camera are muscles that we need to build and grow and really get our reps in. So, for anyone who feels uncomfortable in front of the camera, making content, whatever it may be, I actually think that's a really good sign because it means that you are extending yourself out of your typical comfort zone and you're trying something new, you're trying something different, you are up leveling. Like maybe you're just used to posting photos and captions, or maybe you are only doing B-roll where you're typing on the computer and you have a text overlay, but now you're going to talk to the camera. Like that's a level up. That's like definitely extending yourself. So
Yeah.
just because you feel cringy, just because you feel uncomfortable, doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. Actually, I think it's the opposite. And so if you can start to embrace that mindset, I'm not saying that solves everything, but it might make you feel a little bit better and might just ever so slightly start to ease the process.
Yeah. It's okay to feel awkward as fuck.
Yes. Oh, and you know what? I'm glad you said that because that just like instantly pinged something in my mind. In my video editing course, one thing that I do is show the raw footage of a video and then I show how to edit it. And there's this one particular video where I create a talking to camera video and I show the raw footage, which is like pretty much a long clip of me talking. And then I'll sort of pause and then I talk. But I do this, well, maybe it's not weird, but I just do this thing where as I have the camera in front of me and I'm like either practicing the next sentence or thinking of the next sentence, I kind of like just like move my lips and I'm like, or like just like I'll awkwardly like flick my hair. I'm like, I'm staring off into the distance. And I'll never forget during the beta round of the course that I ran to get feedback before launching it publicly, so many people were like, wait, Jera, you're awkward too when you record? Like, I never would have guessed. Like, I thought it was just easy and perfect for you and everything just flowed out. And I'm like, well, sometimes maybe it does. But on this particular day, I'm just kind of like mumbling the words and looking weird. And what I love including in that and having people see that is like it gives permission to just normalize the process. I've been
Mhm.
doing this for so long. I'm very comfortable on video. But if you look at my behind the scenes, I might look kind of awkward sometimes. And it's okay if you do as well.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for saying that. I see, I've always felt really confident speaking. I love speaking. I love writing. So I thought, okay, Instagram will be a breeze. And then I
Yeah.
put a camera in front of my face and immediately like do all these weird, strange things I don't realize.
Yep. Yep. You're not alone. I hear people say that all the time.
And I'm so happy we're talking about this because I actually, in episode 5, I talk about how to speak confidently and charismatically
Oh, beautiful.
to really connect with people, to express yourself, to get across what's important for you, your brand, whatever it is. But the video piece is so weird. Like my partner David, he'll sometimes randomly take B-roll of me and be like, "Oh wait,
Yeah.
this is a good shot.
Oh,
Like
that's so cute.
let me take a video of you." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks." I always feel awkward. And he was like, "Right when I hit record, you do weird stuff. Like you start making strange
Interesting.
faces."
That is so interesting. I kind of equate it to, you know, I mean, I feel like this was like a long time. It's weird when you like start to date yourself sometimes because I feel like some people are going to listen to this and be like, oh, I've never experienced this. But when you used to create your voice recording on your like home phone and then you listen back to it and it's like, hi, you've reached Jera. And it's like, whoa, like that's what I sound like. It's so confronting. And I think video is like the modern day equivalent of that. And then
Yeah.
watching, it's one thing being recorded and then like watching yourself back, it can be a confronting experience. So it makes sense to me what you're saying and how you feel.
Yeah, completely. And I don't know why this is coming up, but I remember when YouTube first came out and like first came out. And I
Yeah.
think I was in middle school and my friend and I were bored. So we put a video of us up just like dancing to music because we thought it was funny and fun. And our parents got so mad at us because at the time the internet was like this big, bad, dangerous place. So they were like, you can't do that. You have no idea who's watching that. Like this is like a huge privacy thing. And but we were in like 6th or 7th grade. We're like, whatever, this is fun. And it's so fascinating to see where things are at now
Oh,
because
totally.
it feels like everyone's online. And the more authentically and vulnerably you show up, the more you connect with people, and you can make really, really genuine friendships and connections through the
Yeah,
internet now.
you absolutely can. I have many stories of that, of meeting people and friendships and really positive things that have happened. So absolutely.
Yeah. So interesting. And I think speaking to what you mentioned before, like there is a magic and real skill required when it comes to editing to make sure that you can take this content, no matter how awkward you may feel or show up as, and really produce something that connects with people, which is the whole point of social media is connection. So, what's like one tip for people who are trying to use content to connect with people because they have a business, but they're kind of struggling with this editing piece?
Tough because like I want to say a million things,
So
so
many things.
I'll try and like whatever comes to me that feels the strongest. But I guess what I always just start with like what's the first thing that pops into my head? And the first thing that popped into my head is this idea of a term that I use is keeping it snappy
Mhm.
or just cutting the fluff. And so there's two examples I have for this. One is a talking to camera video. And let's say in the beginning, I start this video and I'm like, hey everyone, it's Jera. I'm a social media coach. I hope you're having such a good day today. And today we're going to talk about how to create content that converts. Okay, that was maybe like 10 seconds long versus here's the other option, how to create content that converts. That was like 2 seconds. And so I think we tend to like waffle on, and sometimes it's okay, but like we can also edit that down in the editing phase. So that's more of cutting the fluff. We're getting rid of pauses, highs, today I'm going to talk about. Cut the today I'm going to talk about. Just say what it is that you're going to talk about or say the hook. Another example that I use, and I have this in like a presentation, so that's why I'm like visualizing both of these examples. I have an example of me just unboxing a package, and it doesn't really matter that that is the subject. It's more of the point I'm trying to make. I show the raw clip where I am unboxing about 5 things out of the package, and it's about 30 seconds long. Then I have a second example of the same exact thing, but it's only 7 seconds long because I've made cuts where you just see me pulling it out of the package and then like I chop out the next motion and like placing it down on the table. And the whole point of this is that I am communicating the same message in each of these things, but one is a lot snappier. So this idea of cutting the fluff, keep it snappy is really important. This doesn't mean that all of your videos have to be quick, fast-paced, flashy, all the things. No, this can apply to a very, simple video. It might just be cutting out the pauses between sentences and that's it. So I want to be very clear. I never force any type of video because for one style, there is someone doing it in a complete different style and finding success. For someone who is only doing trends, there is someone who only does original content and is doing great. So that's the first thing that comes to my head. I can certainly go on, but that's a pretty important one.
I love that. And that's something actually recently I started this yesterday. So this is very top of mind for me. But
Yeah.
I'm someone, I'm an infant baby when it comes to Instagram compared to you. Like I started a year ago and I was not an Instagram girly before then. Like the concept of meeting a friend through Instagram was alien to me. I was
Oh,
like, is that even
interesting.
possible? It was like how people view dating apps before dating apps
Got
occurred.
it. That's a good example. Yeah.
And then I started, and now I've met incredible people. Like I met my right-hand marketing person for my company through Instagram. I met her in person last week. I've like genuinely created so many beautiful connections. But showing up, I always take that like nervous sigh, like on stories, like, hi everyone, da 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 da. And I realized I need to cut it. So sometimes I'll do a selfie story talking about whatever is relevant, but then I'll cut like the first half
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
using this Jera skill.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a great technique. Like it's all about finding what works for you. So if someone feels awkward, whether you're making a reel, a TikTok or story, whatever it is, starting so abruptly and it feels comfortable for them to lead in. Like for example, something that I noticed, and I totally do this as well. So it's something that I've had to like train myself to undo, is starting with the word all right. I notice sometimes on someone's stories, if someone's talking to camera throughout the day, if you click through, it'll be like, all right, next. All right, next. All right, because it's like we need almost like a little bridge to begin talking. So that's totally
Yeah.
normal in just regular conversation, but we want to be a little bit more mindful. So if someone feels more comfortable saying all right and then having a little pause and then getting to whatever it is that they're going to say, that's okay, but that's the power of editing. We have choices of how we curate that potential clip or multiple clips, essentially just as you described.
Thank you. It's like very validating to hear.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. I mean, I think so much of social media and creating videos is like we think that we are doing something wrong or we think we're not doing it the right way. And I do not believe in black and white things when it comes to social media for the most part. I think so much of it is a gray area. And I think that that's actually an issue right now is that scrolling through your Reels feed and seeing social media advice out there, it makes it feel like it's black and white. It makes it feel like you always have to use a trending audio. A client recently was like, I've been scrolling for an hour looking for a trending audio. I'm like, girlfriend, maybe just don't use an audio. Like, you don't have, like, I think it's actually really refreshing to not use music. Now, that's not to say that there isn't sometimes a strategy around trying to find an audio that might pick up speed, that type of thing. So I'm not saying don't do it, but we don't have to lock ourselves into these rules that are really perpetuated at the moment and make us also like not feel bad and even prevent us from taking action sometimes because we don't have it right.
Yeah, I think you answered a question I was going to ask, which is like what trends work, what trends don't work. But it sounds like it doesn't matter what the trend is, like what works for you may be completely different than what's happening, in general with the population.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if we look at it just super high level, I will say that trends, and when I say trends, I mean anything from just a trending audio to a full-on trend, because there's a difference there, right? Like a trending audio is just an audio that people are using. It could be on a vlog, it could be on a get ready with me, it could be on a behind the scenes type of post versus a trend. A trend is something that everyone is doing. So if there's a lip dub, we're all moving our mouth to the same word. If there's a style of edit, everyone's editing the same way type of thing. But we have trends, and I do think that trends tend to be more of growth content versus original content does tend to be a little bit more nurture content. Trends, the beauty of them, if you get it right, is that if you get in at the right time and then it swells in popularity, your post could potentially ride that wave and swell with it. Not a guarantee, of course, but that's the potential option with trends, and that's like why people try and jump on them versus original content on Instagram. I actually think it's different on TikTok, but original content on Instagram typically doesn't have as much of a fighting chance, which I hate because I actually love original content and I'm a huge encourager of that. However, big however, you have to experiment because you have to experiment to figure out what it is that you like to create, what fits into your lifestyle, what fits your current skill level, what fits your, creativity, and also what makes sense for your current audience and more so actually your ideal follower or your ideal client, depending on what it is that you do. And my favorite example is I've been working with a client for a few months now, and we've been, experimenting in those first few months working together. And what we have found is that her talking to camera videos are actually the consistent ones that take off. Like we're talking super viral compared to other ones, which, are kind of at her baseline. So it's just proof that it's not just the trends that do well. It could be the original content. And even if your original content doesn't do quote unquote well, and that is what you like to create, you can create that. You don't have to create the other stuff just because it does well. I get really fired up about this.
Yeah, I love this. I'm like, Jera. Keep it to
Got me
us.
heated over here.
No, but I love that description and even the word swells because it's like trends are waves. And if you
Yeah.
can get in at the right time, you can gain a lot of visibility, you can gain a lot of momentum. But there is also this kind of evergreen, like swim your own lane, create what works best for you.
Yeah. Oh, I like that metaphor. It's good.
Thank you. Video is not my sweet spot, but writing is my sweet spot.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, maybe you need to lean into that a little bit more with video content somehow. There's got to be a connection there.
Yeah, I'm going to be thinking about that the rest of the day. So
Yeah,
thank you for that
you
one.
got it.
I am also curious about your thoughts on AI and how that might affect all of this.
So I will say I'm not like an expert on AI. I don't feel like super knowledgeable. However, I would say in the last 2 to 3 months, I've started exploring it a little bit more, in particular with Claude. I'm obsessed with Claude. I love
Oh my
Claude more
God.
than ChatGPT. It's like
Love
great.
Claude.
And also, I think of Claude as a woman too. I once heard someone like refer to it as he. I'm like, Claude is totally a she. Anyways, doesn't really matter.
I picture kind of like an eccentric aunt who just like has this
Yeah.
library and all these like knickknacks and things.
I like that. I like that. But the
Love.
reason I started using it, and I'll plug my Insta friend here. Her name's Kaylee. She's a copywriter, and she has a product called the AI Copy Buddy, and she's created these Google Docs with all these prompts that or questions that you answer about yourself. So about brand voice and about your products that you sell and how you approach social media. It takes like hours to fill these out. It's very, very thorough. And then you feed those to Claude, and then it gets to know you and your brand and your business, and then can help you with other things. So I've used it for, generating ideas for reels, writing LinkedIn posts. I was actually shocked that this worked because I didn't really have a lot of faith in it. I'm a very creative person, so I can come up with ideas. I don't need to lean on AI, but like if it's there to help, why not use it? But I actually used it to come up with a concept for a sponsored post that for a day I thought of. Like I could not come up with an idea for this. And I was like, let me just ask Claude and see what this eccentric aunt has to say. And it actually came up with a really good idea. I couldn't believe it. So all that's to
Cool.
say is I'm experimenting, playing with it more. I think it's really something to supplement and also speed up your process with some things. I don't think it's a full replacement, but it's here. It's something that, we're going to incorporate more and more. And I think if you aren't, at least tapping in or learning about AI to some degree, whether it's Claude, ChatGPT or something else, I don't want to say you're going to get left behind, but it's like it's here. We got to start to embrace it in some shape or form and understand it.
Yeah, I actually do think if you're a business owner and you're not using Claude or ChatGPT, you will be left behind because it just speeds up everything.
It
Like,
does.
for instance, one way I like to use it is for podcast episode research. So I
Ooh.
recently did one, I've done a few, but I did one on how to balance masculine and feminine energy in business because I'm
Okay.
very big on, you know, business is a mirror. How you feel as a business owner is going to affect the business. And I wanted to explore this kind of yin yang energy concept.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, Claude, my eccentric aunt, you have a PhD in this. Give me a list of
Ooh.
resources and points that you think would be important to touch on for this podcast episode for this audience.
Oh, nice prompt. I like that.
Thank you. Proud of that
And how'd it
one.
go? Was it helpful? Did
It
it
was
work?
amazing. Yeah, she was like the best librarian in the world. She gave me like a list of resources. I looked at a couple different resources and the time it took to put this podcast episode together, at least the research, in terms of delivering it, I try to keep it natural and not scripted.
Sure.
The research piece took me a couple hours. If
That's
I did
it.
that on my own, it would have
Yeah.
been a week, and that's valuable time I could spend with clients. So,
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a good point.
yeah, I think
Absolutely.
it really speeds up certain parts of your business. And like you're saying, it can speed up the ideation phase or copywriting or even just proofing. If you're having a day where you're like, I don't know if I have a typo here, can you just check this out? It
Yeah.
could be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think ideation and speeding up are the two biggest things that I'm agreeing with in my experience with it so far. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, there's another part of your business that is more recent, and I think it's going to be really massive and explode in terms of content around it for business owners who are creating some sort of proprietary content. So,
Yeah.
like, for
Yeah.
me, I'm a big strategy girly. I spent 12 years in marketing, so marketing strategy holistically is where a lot of my on-demand course content lives.
Yeah.
You absolutely excel in video editing and have this material, and you've started to explore licensing. So, can you tell us about
Yes.
that?
I can. It's funny when you're like so in something. Like, I do not feel I'm an expert at this. I'm still in the beginning stages. However, it is interesting looking back to a year ago when I hadn't really started at all in it compared to where I am now. There's definitely been a lot of growth. And it's funny, I actually just put on my stories today that there there's so much information on the internet about like everything. There is really not that much information about licensing. It's
Yeah,
wild. It's wild.
there's a
Like, is it
gap.
just that people aren't doing it? No one knows. Like, I'm like, how many times do you come across something where there isn't that much information? It's crazy.
Nothing.
Um, and so this all started for me somewhat organically. I've had a relationship with MAC Cosmetics for a couple of years now, and I do virtual classes for them. I do like intimate, more smaller group coaching sessions. And about a year ago, I was on a call with them and mentioned the course, and they were super interested in it. And I don't remember if I actually thought licensing before that, and then I mentioned it, or if I mentioned it and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to like, this is a real thing. But that's what opened the door for me. And my husband, who works with me part of the time, I sent him on like a wild goose chase to learn as much as he could. There is one person who sent their content centers around licensing. Her name is April Beach. We consumed her podcast. I think we maybe bought one of her lower ticket courses, but that's the only sort of condensed knowledge that we found. So a lot of it we've had to scrap together and figure out on our own, like, how do you charge and how do you deliver and what's in the contract and how many years do they have access for, and even just the technicalities of it, as in the way that I've done it so far is that I have a checkout page for the course. I will create a promo code in the back end. So let's say a company is like, we want 50 logins. I'll create a promo code for 50 total uses of that promo code, send that to them, and then they're able to log into the course for free because it's already been purchased in that bulk way behind the scenes when we created that deal. But I will also say something else that's interesting about this is I do use the word licensing, but it's a little bit more like wholesale, if I'm being honest, because I host the course on Thinkific and I'm
Okay.
essentially giving them a volume discount for, if you have 20 or 100 or 500, they get a certain percentage off. So even like the terminology is a little bit interesting because I think licensing kind of clicks in people's head and they understand what that is. Like if I saying, yeah, I'm wholesaling my course, people will be like, what? Like, what are you doing? Like it just maybe they'd understand, but I feel like licensing just sounds, I don't know, sounds a little better, I think, than wholesaling. But it's been a journey, and so far I've licensed it to Mac, and that was back in April. And then as of essentially today, I've licensed it to Razorfish, which is a marketing company. And I have talks with someone in Australia. I can't really talk about it yet for like a really, really major sector there that if I was to break into and it would be successful, it would like be absolutely insane. So these things take a while to come about because these corporations and these big companies, things move really, really slow. It takes
Yep.
months for these deals to get done. So the
Oh, yeah.
more you can kind of initially start these conversations and get that slow ball moving, the better. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And I'm going to continue to pursue it as much as possible because it's one thing to sell it to my community and individuals to purchase it, which is great. I want people to continue doing that. I'm working on an evergreen funnel at the moment, but there's a whole other world in this licensing arena that I want to keep exploring and also learning about as I try and, become more knowledgeable about this.
No, absolutely. I mean, first off, congratulations.
Thank you.
Those are huge partnerships. I used to be in the Bay Area, so I learned about Razorfish
Oh, cool.
when I was there.
Nice.
So that's huge. Mac is huge. For people who are totally unfamiliar with licensing, maybe they're thinking about starting to create content and they see that as a potential long-term type thing that they want to do. Like, for example, how is Mac using your content?
So it's really interesting. The big, big companies I work with, Mac, Estee Lauder, Bobby Brown, Adobe, most of these companies, I'm actually tapping into their creator and ambassador network. So
Mhm.
Mac, Estee Lauder, they have hundreds of creators across the world who like are their own makeup artists and have their own businesses, but they're associated with that company. And because of that association, I'm going to assume there's a certain amount of content they have to create for the company each month, type of thing. They get benefits being connected. And so obviously this also benefits Mac. The more voices they have out there, the more people in the field. So it's kind of, sometimes I do work with teams, but it is a little bit more with the ambassadors and the creators in these companies. Adobe had something called the Creator Camp. So I'd come in
Yep.
and do virtual sessions for them. But with Mac specifically, they've licensed the course, getting a certain amount of logins for their creators across the globe. And it's exactly the setup I explained, where there's a certain amount of promo codes, they log in and they have access to it. I run reports to send them so they can see like who completed the course or how far along people are in it. You can get a lot of data.
Cool.
Thinkific offers a lot within that. So yeah, that is the setup. And the other cool thing that I will mention, because this is kind of interesting, is that I don't know if it will happen. I feel like it's a little bit of a pipe dream, but because they have global creators, of course, they have people speaking a whole bunch of languages. The course could potentially be translated into Spanish or Japanese or whatever it may be, because right now, obviously, it's only in English. And
Right.
speaking of AI, not that I've tapped into it yet, but there's, all these new ways of popping up that can take whatever you have recorded and like kind of instantly change it into another language. Now it would be a huge amount of work because there's so many videos in the course, but like if someone wanted it and they wanted to buy a good amount of it, like yeah, absolutely I would do it. So that was kind of in the early days. They were talking about doing the initial run with the English language and seeing how that went, and then there was a potential to buy more logins in another language and translate the course. So that haven't talked about that in a while, but I thought that was pretty cool. And maybe it's something that might come up with another company as well. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, a friend of mine, her partner works for an AI company that does that. I do
Oh,
not remember the
cool.
name for the life
Yeah.
of me right now, but specifically that. And they've been working with like doctors who have like surgeons who have a certain method for a practice and then translating that so that doctors in other markets can learn what they're doing. And I know that they apply that
Wow.
to a whole bunch of different industries and
That is
people,
so
but
cool. So
one
cool.
very, very cool thing from AI, even though it has its scary parts, but
Yes.
these are
But
the
with
cool
all
parts.
things, same with the internet, like your parents being scared. Like, and now look where we are now, using it for good.
Exactly. Exactly. You have no idea how healing that is.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
With this licensing journey, I've actually talked about this with other people on the show who have experience with corporate companies. I do too. I still do some marketing advisory work with some corporations, and things do move slower. There are way more parties involved usually than
Oh,
expected.
yeah.
What else has been kind of an unexpected learning in this licensing journey for you?
Interesting. Oh, what comes to mind for that? I mean, I think just to reiterate how slow things move. I mean, the initial Mac deal took like over 6 months, something like that. Like it's wild. It's like slower than molasses. Um, I think I'm trying to think if anything else unexpected has come up. I think the honestly figuring out the pricing has been really challenging because it's essentially what percentage off. We've created a scale like from 10 to 50 login or 49 is X amount off, 50 to 99 is X amount off. We haven't quite stuck to that in order to sweeten the deal a little bit more, as well as offer things like kickoff calls and one 60-minute call that can be redeemed. That's like a Q&A once people have gone through the course. So yeah,
Mm.
just kind of little lessons like that along the way and just really figuring out as we go and hitting different points that perhaps we didn't expect. Like for instance, someone licenses the course. Well, they don't have lifetime access to it, but 1 year doesn't really feel great, but it's 3 years too much. So it's all those little things that just come up as you are really in the thick of it and in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, please continue to share your licensing journey because I think more and more creators want to go down this path to repurpose
Yeah.
what they've created for larger audiences. I mean, it makes sense. It's more profitable. There's so many benefits.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm hoping one day when I feel more confident, like maybe it's something I can teach and actually help people with, considering that there's barely anything out there. It's like, wait, there's a gap. Maybe I should fill it.
Yeah. Yep. That's how businesses start.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, to round out today's episode, I think there are so many women listening to this that feel like when they show up, even though they have businesses and things that they're proud of, or just even want to show up online, but they're scared of people judging them or,
Yeah.
of their friends forwarding that video to other friends and kind of laughing behind their back. What would you say to them?
Well, this has happened to me, so I've been in the thick of it, and I speak from experience. And it's funny, I've actually shared this a few times recently, so there must be something that's like coming up that I need to keep sharing it. But a couple years ago, someone sent a message to me, thinking, replying to my story, thinking that they were sending it to someone else, and it said like, "She's trying too hard." And it's like, obviously, that's not the worst message I've gotten. I've gotten some really nasty things over the years, but to me, it's like people are worried of what people are going to think, what they're going to say, what they're going to say behind their back, or accidentally message directly to you because they don't know how to forward a story and they're replying instead. And it's not that the fear is irrelevant. It's not like, oh, you shouldn't be scared of that, because who wants to be talked about negatively? Who wants to be disliked?
Mm.
However, I think the mission, the values, what it is that you're wanting to create in the world, who it is that you're wanting to help, the mark you're wanting to leave, how you want to be really known and received, like that has to be bigger than the fear. Because ultimately, if you allow that fear to really hold you back, what does that achieve? Like maybe you don't show up, so those people don't say anything and they don't talk about you. And so, okay, that's good. That's a positive. But where is that actually getting you? You've actually allowed these what ifs or potential things that are real to prevent you from taking action and moving forward. So it's really hard. I do not have this 100% figured out yet, but I really try and zero in on, do I want scenario A where it's keeping me small but also safe, but I'm not moving forward? Or scenario
Mhm.
B where people are going to say some not nice things. They're going to message me mean things. They're going to talk about my back. But we don't have to only focus on the negative. The positive of this is you're making wonderful connections. You're helping people. You're inspiring people. You're building your business and making money and creating a life for you and your family and all the things. So that's how I try to look at it, rather than just saying, "Oh, I don't care what people think." It's like, no, we can care, and it hurts, but what is the bigger, higher level vision that we can work towards and attach ourselves to?
Oh, yeah. I love that so much. So focus on the positive. And I think you made content around this too, but like, of course, we're trying hard. This is a given.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're,
And what's wrong with trying hard?
what's
Like,
wrong with trying
what the
hard?
heck? Like, okay, I'd rather try to like hard than like not try at all. Like, why is I feel like we're back in middle school where it's like, yeah, I don't want to look like I'm trying too hard. Like, come on, we're adults. We've graduated past that.
We have, yeah. We are women owning our own businesses. We're showing up. You're
Yeah.
showing up to help people show up, which is total magic. Oh, Jera, well, thank you so much for this episode. This was so, so fun. And you're a total bright light. So thank you for being
Thank
here.
you. That's so sweet. Thank you for having me on. And this was such a lovely conversation. I'm so glad that I got to do this.
Same. So plug your stuff. Where can people find you and follow along?
Super simple. I'm Jera Bean, Jera.Bean. So Jera.Bean on Instagram, on TikTok. I've been on LinkedIn more recently. Very excited
Oh,
about that. Come find me on LinkedIn. JeraBean.com, as well as JeraBean.com/ the video editing rodeo. If you're wanting to learn how to edit, that course is there. And that's about it.
amazing. Thank you, Jera.
Thank
And
you.
again, this is Samantha, host Samantha Fackler. You can find me at growwith_Sam. And if you got anything out of today's episode, please leave a rating and review. We love it. We're literally doing dances right now,
Yes, we're
bringing
doing the
in the stars.
most.
Thanks all.